Thank you for joining us for Talk of the Nation. Now, Uganda has launched its first ever anti-tick vaccine after it was cleared for the second to last stages of final approval for use in animals. The vaccine was produced by Ugandan scientists under the National Agriculture Research Organization, NARO. Tonight, we look at what these vaccine trials will entail. And to help us appreciate this, we have Dr HALIDI KIRUNDA, Director for Research at NARO Mbarara. Good evening, sir, and welcome to Talk of the Nation.
Good evening, Mildred, and good evening, dear viewers.
Yes. Well, Doctor, first things first, how was this vaccine developed, given considering the failures registered in preventing the tick-borne disease?
Thank you very much, Mildred. I want to start by indicating that the journey has been long. You may recall that way back in 2012, there were media reports of emergence of resistance of ticks against some of the acaricides. And from the time we got those media reports, we embarked on the journey through a series of activities and partnerships, I could say. We embarked on some study during that time to try and verify if indeed there was any outbreak or an emergency of resistance of ticks against acaricides. And when we confirmed that, NARO top management engaged the scientists and indicated that there is need for NARO to commit some resource towards developing the capacity, but also to undertake the research in ticks and tick-borne diseases in order to reduce the outcry that was going on or that had just started among the dairy farmers, especially in southwestern Uganda. You are very much well aware that southwestern Uganda is the dairy hub of this country. So from that date, that resource was put aside, but at the same time we started having some engagements with partners, so whether we could equally be could either receive some additional resources or also get technical assistance. And during that time, FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, we had some meeting in Paris, and they accepted to extend some technical assistance to NARO to build the capacity, especially of trying to do surveillance in resistant ticks in the country. But also had engagement with our sister institution, the National Drug Authority, because then there were complaints and we wanted to confirm if indeed the acaricides that were on market were indeed not appropriate or not. Because you also remember that NARO most of the time does the assessment, does the field trials of newly introduced acaricides in this country prior to registration. So the journey started that way. And we also had to conduct what they call an expert knowledge consultative meeting involving colleagues, professors at Makerere University, from Gulu University. There were some renowned professors in ticks, and the scientists ourselves in NARO to try and devise the immediate, the mid-term and the longer-term approaches that we could do in order to put down the fire that was starting. And out of that engagement, also it included the Ministry of Agriculture, because that is the mother ministry responsible for livestock diseases.
So how then did you end up to the anti-tick?
So when we had the expert consultative meeting, we all agreed as experts that we need to start developing what they call non-chemical interventions. For example, using fungi to kill the ticks, or using tick repellent plants, and also developing anti-tick vaccine.
Okay. And
NARO in the resource, NARO's commissioned 2 studies, one at Makerere University and one in NARO based at the National Livestock Research Institute, where I was working at that time, before I was redeployed to the Mbarara Zone Agriculture Research and Development Institute. So we started that journey way back. There was some training that resource involved sending some of us out of the country. For example, some team went to Spain. There is a renowned professor in development of molecules for anti-tick vaccine, and also some other professor in Brazil, in the University of Rio Grande do Sul, in Portalega.
Okay, so from the 4-stage trials that you carried out at Naro, for the anti-tick vaccine, how effective has this vaccine been in ending the tick-borne diseases?
I want to say that indeed this vaccine whose trial that was launched on Thursday has gone a series of stages. I can say that in vaccine development, you usually have up to 5 stages. Some say 3, some say 5, depending on what you are looking at. The first one is exploratory, discovery. To discover the molecule, we had to go through we established an acarology, a laboratory responsible for ticks, and we had to look for ticks from an area in the country which has never used the vaccine, and that is the Bogondo Island within Kyoga. That's where we found that farmers had never used any chemical on the animals, and we got the ticks and established our laboratory, which we would use for research. And thereafter, we had to go across the 10 agroecological zones of this country in order to pick the diversity of the ticks from which we extracted the proteins, which we can call RNA. And this protein, which we got, is the one responsible for developing the immunity in the animal. It's a protein in the tick itself, but when put in the animal, then it can be able to fight, to cause development, at least immunity within the within the animal. So the first stage is exploratory. You do it in the laboratory, confirm if the molecule does exist, whether it can work. You do it in small animals like the rabbits, and the rabbits are able to develop the immunity, and you confirm if the immunity does exist. You attach the ticks on the rabbit, and if the rabbit develops the immunity and the ticks do not survive on it, then you will be sure. Then from there we went to fewer animals like 5 and moved stage by stage. So the first stage is exploratory. The second stage is called preclinical, where you are just working in the smaller animals, confirming safety and efficacy. Then from there we went to the clinical trials. The clinical trials undertaken here at the National Livestock Resources Research Institute at Nachesasa. We had to do it in our local animals called the zebus. Then after we went to the crosses.
And how effective were the trials? And
effective, what we have managed to obtain, the results that have excited us and empowered us to go to the next stage, is that we had up to actually we formulated up to 5 vaccines. 5 candidate vaccines, and from the 5 we have zeroed temporarily on 1, because this one has achieved 88% level of efficacy and has also exhibited safety. Efficacy means that if the ticks are attached on the animal, then it can be able to make it difficult for these ticks to survive on the animal among 88 of the 100% that are attaching on the animal. So if there are 100 attached, 88 cannot successfully do what? Cannot successfully develop. The beauty with this vaccine is that it is able to affect the tick in the different developmental stages. You know, the development stage of the tick goes through the egg, the larva, the nymph, then the adult. That's the life cycle of the tick. So it affects all of the stages of the tick. So that at the larval stage, its survival goes lower. The tick is not able to feed successfully and go to the next stage. So up to 88%. When you sum up at every stage, at the end when they are adults, you will have achieved up to 88%.
So what areas are being covered by the vaccine trial, and how many animals are involved? And also you can tell us how long this trial is going to last.
Thank you, Madrid. This trial is going to involve only 360 head of cattle. 360 because we have 5 sites, and each site has only 72 according to the protocol that has been developed. You know, we developed a protocol which went through scientific review, went through ethics review, scientific ethics review or research ethics review. It went to Uganda National Council of Science and Technology also for clearance or approval at that science level, and then at the National Drug Authority where it has been approved that you can run the trial. So that is the agreed sample size of 72 animals. Now these 72 animals, each group of 72 animals is in its own agroecological zone. So we have the rangeland agroecological zone, which is the Mbarara side. We have another site which is in Chiburara, which is in Kazo. We call it the Western Highlands agroecological zone. Then we have another site at Isimba Prison Farm. The other one is Chiburara Prison Farm. We have Isimba Prison Farm, where we have which is located in the Lake Albertine agroecological zone. Then we have another one at Marozi, which is also a narrow station, and that is in what we call the mid-north agroecological zone, and then in Karamoja in Nabiratuk.
So Doctor, as we wrap up this conversation, if the vaccine were to pass the trial, do you have the capacity to vaccinate all animals in this country, you know, in a move or in a bid to eradicate the tick-borne diseases? As we wrap up,
I will sum up this question in two ways, yes and no. Yes, in a sense that NARO has already built the capacity of the personnel required to produce the vaccine. Also yes, because NARO has started building the infrastructure. Already the structure is nearly ready, and the equipment are being brought in, being imported, being procured. Why do I say no? Because if we don't receive additional support from government, then it may not be practical for us to produce the vaccine. But this journey has solely been supported by government. When we started the development of the vaccine, has been government support, and we believe that if government can continue supporting the development of this vaccine, then I believe that we shall have the capacity by the end of 2023 to be able to produce the vaccine that farmers can access. So if you could re-echo to us as we conclude, how long will this trial last? The trial is lasting, we can say the first 6 months will give us good results. But we are doing what they call safety, efficacy, and effectiveness. Effectiveness is takes a longer period for you to keep proving how the immune system of the animal fluctuates in the immunodynamics. So for that matter, it will take us the first 6 months to get the results that we want, but we shall still maintain those animals there in order to keep proving the immunodynamics. How long does the immunity stay in order to demand for a dose? Well, it seems the nightmare of the tick-borne disease is soon coming to an end. Yes, we believe so. We are scientists, we're excited about it, and we believe it's about to come to an end. The reason why we launched is because we are doing what they call social mobilization. Thank you so much, farmers. Dr. HALIDI Kirunda, the Director for Research at NARO Mbarara. He's been talking to us about the newly launched anti-tick vaccine. Well, we do take a break and return with more stories.